Welcome to my kitchen. When I think of celebrating special occasions like Mother's Day, birthdays, or the girls coming home from college, I think of scones and tea. So today I'm going to share with you my cranberry orange maple tea scones with organic green ginger tea. This is going to be fun, so let's get started. You know, when you're wanting to cook healthy, it's so important to start with the freshest organic ingredients possible. So I'm using organic whole wheat pastry flour I picked up at the supermarket. If your grocer doesn't carry this, just ask them to. I did, and now they carry it all the time. We're going to start with 3 cups flour. So I have that measured out here. I'll just put that into my bowl. You're going to want to use a pretty good sized mixing bowl for this recipe. To that, I'll add 1 tablespoon aluminum-free baking powder. It's really important to get that aluminum-free if you can. Also, I found this is so neat, a half a teaspoon of aluminum-free baking soda, and just a pinch of sea salt. Now, you could use a sifter if you want, but I just kind of sift that together with my pastry cutter just like that. It works really good. Okay, to that I'm going to add 3/4 cup of organic unsalted butter. That's 1½ sticks of butter that you get that's already pre-measured. You're going to want to take your cube of butter and slice it up into pieces to really help the process along. So here we go with our butter. And when you get it cut up like this, it really does help dice that in there. You could use a fork if you want, but I find a pastry blender works really well. So you're going to take that and just work it in. Takes a little bit of doing, but this is the fun time. You're going to want to work it until the pieces actually resemble peas, kind of like English peas. That's really neat. Now, I had some fun when I was preparing this recipe today. I studied about the history of scones. I found they're really a sweet biscuit. They date back to Scotland in the 1500s, were originally made with oat, and they were cooked on a griddle over an open flame, which is really, I found, rather interesting. Now, I like to stop as I'm cutting this in and just use a regular knife to break up my butter like that. Works good. Then, later on, about the 1800s, when leavening agents were invented, they were actually made in ovens when they came out and baked to a lovely golden brown. Well, it didn't take long for the English to catch on, and to this day, they're still a British tradition, and what a treat they are. Okay, that looks good. This is the basic mix, and then, for instance, I could add a cup of blueberries or perhaps some nuts. Well, for our recipe today, we're going to blend in a cup of dried cranberries. I just love these. These cranberries I actually bought at the health food store. They haven't been sweetened with sugar, and they're just wonderful. Then I've got 2 teaspoons of grated orange peel. This is just great. I'm just going to take that and kind of blend it in. And sometimes, you know, like for instance, if I were using blueberries, I would dust them with a little flour first so they stay, they don't get clumped together in here. But these are already dried, so I don't have to do that. Just mix it up like that. Okay. Now for the wet ingredients. This one's going to be good. You simply take a cup of pure maple syrup. Now, this is not the kind of maple syrup that has corn syrup in it. You're going to want the pure stuff, the kind from Vermont. Then we've got a 1/2 cup of cream. We're just going to take a 1/2 cup of cream, pour right into there. I like to mix my wet ingredients together and then add those to my dry. 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Then, here's a little secret. This is going to make your scones light and fluffy and oh so delicious. Just simply take and make a well in the center of your flour mixture and then just pour in your wet ingredients, as easy as that. Then we're just going to mix that up. Now, the dough's going to be really sticky. Don't worry about it. It's going to be a little bit gooey, but that's the fun part. This is so much fun to make with your kids and your grandkids, too. So we're just going to mix this up. Takes a little bit of stirring. I find that it works really well when I have ingredients like berries or these cranberries to use this kind of a spatula just to get the moisture going. And then I'll finish it with a wooden spoon because it gets a little bit stiff. That way I don't mess up my ingredients. Okay, there we go. And we're just going to mix this up. Now, if your dough is a little bit too dry, don't be afraid to add a little bit more cream. If it's too wet, you can add a little bit more flour. Not a problem. When that's mixed up, just about like where we are, you're just going to pour this out onto a well-floured work surface. At home, if you have granite or marble, you can use that right on your countertop. If not, a cutting board, something like that. So this is really good. So what we're going to do now is get our work surface ready. Take a good amount of flour, just spread it around. You don't want it to stick. Then we're just going to gently knead it a couple times. Take this out here, just pour it right out onto your board just like that. This is the fun part. Kind of reminds me of baking bread. I just love baking. It's so much fun. Now, we're not truly going to knead this, as you will. We're just going to sort of mix it a couple of times to get it workable. So you pat it down a couple of times, then we're going to divide it in half and just make a half at a time. So we'll put that back. We'll take this one, and this is working out really nice. This wood work surface is really working good. So we're going to take that, and you just use your hands. Now, this is the fun part. You simply pat it into a circle, 7-8 inches in diameter and about an inch thick. That makes them nice and fluffy. And if you want to, you could use a biscuit cutter, or you can cut it into triangles. I like the triangles because that's the traditional look of the scones that I always find in England or whatever, and I just like that little bit of romanticism with them. So we have our nice little circle, maybe just a little bit bigger. Then you take a knife and cut it into triangles just by cutting it in half again, and then just go down nice like this. Sort of like cutting a pie. Not a big deal. It's just great. Okay, so we have them cut. Now, I always line my pan with parchment paper for easy cleanup. So we're going to take our spatula and put these about an inch or two apart on your baking pan. You know, I tell you, baking stones work really good too for those of you who get into utensils and like to have different gadgets. They work really well. And then you don't have to line it. So we'll just place these kind of nice apart because they're going to raise really up to be nice and fat and fluffy. You'll see when we're all done. Okay, now when we're done with that, now this is another little trick. This is fun. This is pure maple crystals that we're just going to sprinkle over the top for added sweetness and flavor. So I just kind of get crazy with that and sprinkle all over. I just love it. You could even put a touch of cinnamon if you want. Okay, now, one thing about baking is it really gets your hands, doesn't it? But that's the fun part, so who cares? We're going to put this in a 375-degree oven for about 18 minutes. You're going to watch them, though, because you don't want them to get too brown. You'll want to watch the bottoms of them. So into the oven we go, and this is going to be good. That's about 18 minutes, I find, works just about perfect. Okay, now while those are baking, let's make some tea. A great pot of tea starts with fresh cold water in your kettle. You see, standing water loses oxygen, which prevents the full flavor of the tea from being released. And when boiled in a kettle, the water's actually boiling when you pour it over the tea, either in a cup or in a teapot. This reduces the length of time you need to steep the tea, resulting in a softer flavor. The longer you brew, the more tannins are released, which can be very bitter. So you're going to want to use 1 tea bag or 1 teaspoon loose leaf tea per cup you're making, plus 1 for the pot. Now let's add that boiling water. You're actually, when you add your water, you're going to let it steep for 3 to 5 minutes, and you're going to stir it once during the steeping process, which is really not bad. That's just the traditional English way to make tea. And then you can enjoy the perfect cup. You know, the traditional way to serve scones is with clotted cream, Devonshire cream, or jam. Devonshire cream is simply whipped cream with a little sour cream blended in. So let's serve up a beautiful scone. Here we've got prepared. How lovely they come out of the oven. I just love the orange currant scones. They're just so festive and so good. Now, isn't that just delicious? These scones are not too sweet, but sweet enough to be a special treat. I am going to pour us a lovely cup of tea now. Oh, look how beautiful that is. That's the organic green ginger tea. Something about getting out the tea set and adding some fresh flowers puts you in the mood to celebrate with those you love. Well, for a copy of today's recipe and for tips on the perfect cup of tea, go to my website, print off and enjoy. We've also added special teas, including the organic green ginger I used today. Thank you for being with me, and please stay tuned because we'll be right back for more of your help.